Welcome back. Well, Beatrice O'Brien works with law firms around the world when it comes to assessing the viability and strategy of taking on practitioners or entire law practices cross-border. She's, of course, with Attorney Placements International. She's in Shanghai for you today with some insights into the anatomy on how overseas movements come about. A warm welcome to you. Appreciate you joining us. Let's just understand the analysis that takes place that you're inextricably part of when it comes to acquiring lawyers or entire firms or practice groups. Give me a sense on how that process begins and how long typically it even runs for.
The process begins by basically having a very good understanding of the vision or the psychology of the law firm wanting to go into the marketplace. So having a very good and deep understanding on that perspective, we then analyze the risk factors, the fee structures of between various parties and the two groups. We look at the equity structure. We look at the profitability of the parties coming in. Sometimes you have, and that's probably the most sticking point in terms of assessing and analyzing that. You're looking at also things like the core practice, making sure that the core practice of the firm is married up with the core practice of what they're intending to join into the marketplace. Having a look at those factors, then you know that whether you have something that's going to be a one with synergy and that fits in properly with a firm coming into, say, Australia. One example is you can see that, and it's also, as I said previously, in terms of the vision of the firm, the philosophy of the firm, you have Mallisons that came into the marketplace, joining forces with King & Wood. Here you could see that the intention of Mallisons and its Australian firm was to have a significant presence in China and Asia. So therefore that merger made sense because you've got Mallisons having the know-how in terms of the management structure and also in terms of having an international focus, whereas you've got King & Wood that is a very highly regarded regulatory practice firm that is able to add value. So that merger made sense. Another analysis was, in terms of looking at Allen & Overy, that came in more of a different stance, and that is acquiring firms out of partners out of Clayton Utz, Freehills, and other firms, and following their clientele and their actual practice niche, which is derived out of their clientele for resources and energy. You also have Allen's, that basically joined forces with Linklaters. Here, Allen's is very well known in Australia, and the brand name is very well regarded, but as soon as you enter outside the jurisdiction of Australia, they're not known. So therefore, joining forces with a firm like Linklaters makes sense, because then you've got all of a sudden a name brand.
Beatrice, let's just briefly look at the other direction, so we swing away from importing ideas and talent offshore to the export story of our practitioners. What is the biggest draw currently? How has it changed in the mindset of overseas firms looking to hire Australian practitioners? Are we still seen the way we were 10 years ago, or are things changing? If so, how?
Things are changing in the sense that, first of all, it stems from the law school. We have, a very highly regarded law school that provides us very versatile and internationalized curriculum. Therefore, we have very good lawyers that come out, and therefore New York firms are ready to hire these lawyers, and from that stems, having the clientele that actually is requiring a lot more advice overseas. So having these on board would make it easier. I mean, for instance, we've just placed an attorney out of one of the top tier firms, Baker McKenzie, into one of our client firms. Here, irregardless of what the market was doing, they saw the synergy and they saw the value out of having a construction lawyer on their team. Hence, even though that project took 6 to 8 months, it still got solidified, and hence the candidate, which is an Australian attorney, having a placement with good dollars back in New York.
Brief final thought about your exchanges with people up the tree, for example, at chairman level, how you can bring about relationships between experts and firms just on that one-on-one level, bypassing the kind of the bigger picture recruitment story.
Well, it depends. I mean, first of all, we're looking at the chairman. We understand what the person actually, with the committee or the chairman actually wants, and that is understanding deeply the vision of the firm as to where strategically they want to be. Then you marry up. For instance, one example is Seyfarth Shaw. 2007-2006, we placed Darren Gardner, and the chairman there was Mr. Stephen Poor, whom you know we've known for since at the inception of Attorney Placements International. Therefore, it was knowing the vision of Seyfarth Shaw, marrying up what the candidate brought to the table, that is the synergy with employment practice, which you know Seyfarth Shaw is known as. So putting the partner into that group, and also having the vision of knowing that Seyfarth Shaw, having been a regional base, can be very viable in a market with economies of scale coming into, say, Australia. So, you know, having the inside knowledge and being with the management committee on that level gives a better insight as to both parties getting together viably.
Beatrice O'Brien from Attorney Placements International, I do appreciate you joining us on the show from Shanghai today. Really appreciate that. Well, let's zip over to Chris Merritt, Legal